Everybody wants to talk today about President Trump making this phone call to this widow and why this is a huge news story and whether President Trump has no sympathy for widows of war heroes and all of that. And we'll get to that in just a second. But I'd like to suggest that one of the reasons the media are focusing on that is because there were three very big stories that came out back to back to back yesterday, all of them good for Trump, all of them very bad for the left. The first story is the story with regard to ISIS. So we now know that U.S.-backed forces have now taken Raqqa. Okay, Raqqa is ISIS's last urban stronghold. It was the place that was the headquarters for ISIS in Syria, and U.S.-backed forces say they have now taken it, and they have cleared the entire place, and basically ISIS has been restricted to this small portion of area in the Euphrates River Valley. One of the things that you should know about ISIS, and we played their propaganda videos in the past, is that one of the ways that they have drawn such attraction to so many people is by claiming they have broad territorial holdings. So if you actually look back at the ISIS propaganda videos, they would say things like, we have territory that is greater than all of the United Kingdom. UK is a pretty small country, but still, they would claim that their territorial holdings were justification. They showed that Allah was on their side. Well, now their territory has basically been shrunk to the size of a dime, and that is thanks to the bravery of America's troops and American allies. This is not all President Trump. Some of this was President Obama. A lot of these operations were started under President Obama. President Trump did free up the military to use different rules of engagement, which certainly helped. He took the shackles off the military that existed. ISIS was in retreat before Obama took office. That has only accelerated under President Trump. According to the New York Times, right, I'm sure on page 824, American-backed forces said on Tuesday that they had seized the northern Syrian city of Raqqa from the Islamic State, a major blow to the militant group, which had long used the city as the de facto capital of its self-declared caliphate. Celebrations erupted in Raqqa, where residents had lived under the repressive rule of militants who beheaded people for offenses as minor as smoking. Fighters could be seen cheering and firing celebratory gunfire in the streets, according to residents reached by phone and text message. U.S. CENTCOM stopped short of declaring victory, saying more than 90% of Raqqa was in SDF control. That'd be the Syrian Democratic Forces. That's an American-backed militia made up of Kurds and Arabs. Colonel Ryan Dillon, spokesman for the U.S. military in Baghdad, said Tuesday Raqqa was on the verge of being liberated, said there were still pockets of the city controlled by ISIS, but ISIS is absolutely in retreat, and now basically ISIS is a cleanup operation. At its height, in 2014, ISIS controlled both Mosul and Raqqa, and now they control neither of them. And that is a testament, again, to the bravery of America's armed forces, as well as our allies, and is a tribute to the Trump administration. I guarantee you that if Barack Obama had been in office when all of this happened, this would be front page news in every paper in the United States, because it is a major thing. It is a major thing. Okay, it's pretty incredible what we were able to do in a pretty short period of time here since ISIS really gained prominence and credibility in 2013, 2014. So good for American troops. That is big story number one. Big story number two. Yesterday, the FBI posted a document revealing that James Comey, former FBI director, had drafted a letter in July 2016 not recommending charges against Hillary Clinton. Okay, as you know, that was way before he was supposed to interview Hillary Clinton. That was way before he had all the information. And so this demonstrates that the fix was basically in here, that James Comey knew that he wasn't going to indict Hillary Clinton, and he was drafting documents to that effect literally weeks and months before he bothered to do all the rest of his research. FBI official, this is according to The Hill, FBI official James Rybecki in mid-May requested in an unclassified email that officials, quote, send any comments on this statement so we may roll it into a master doc for discussion with the director at a future date. 2 months later, Comey would make his announcement criticizing Clinton, but that was 2 months after he had already written his ruling in the case, demonstrating once again that something deeply corrupt was going on here. James Comey has a lot of questions he's going to need to answer on that particular matter. So that is story number two, and that one, again, does not help the left wing, it does not help the Democratic Party, and it doesn't help the media, which had proclaimed from the beginning that Hillary was innocent, 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 innocent. Okay, story number three. This one is the most stunning story. It really is quite amazing. Okay, the story is basically that you remember there was this story that Trump kept bringing up on the campaign trail. It was a rip from Peter Schweitzer, the guy who wrote Clinton Cash, very, very good researcher. He has his own nonprofit based down in Florida, in which he investigates. It's basically an investigative journalism center. But Schweitzer had uncovered this story about how Rosatom, which is the Russian nuclear agency, had gained control of 1/5 of America's uranium supply, and they had also given massive donations to the Clinton Foundation. And it was cleared by the State Department when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. And President Trump used to talk about this on the campaign trail all the time. Hillary Clinton denied there was any wrongdoing. She said that the State Department, that part of the State Department was not under her charge. She never knew about it and all the rest. And there were claims that the Russians never did anything illegal anyway, so who cares? Right? Nothing illegal was being done, or at least if it was being done, nobody had any knowledge. Well, that turns out to be a lie. So according to the New York Post today, the Obama administration knew Russia had used bribery, kickbacks, and extortion to get a stake in the U.S. atomic energy industry, but cut deals giving Moscow control of a large chunk of the U.S. uranium supply anyway, according to a report on Tuesday. This is from The Hill. The FBI used a confidential U.S. witness working inside the Russian nuclear industry to gather records, make secret recordings, and intercept emails as early as 2009 that showed the Kremlin had compromised an American uranium trucking company. Executives at the company, Transport Logistics International, kicked back about $2 million to the Russians in exchange for lucrative no-bid contracts, a scheme that violated the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. The feds also learned that Russian nuclear officials had gotten millions of dollars into the U.S. designed to benefit the Clinton Foundation. At the same time, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton served on a government committee that signed off on the deal, sources told The Hill. The racketeering operation was conducted, quote, with the consent of higher-level officials in Russia who shared the proceeds from the kickbacks, an agent later stated in an affidavit. The DOJ, under Attorney General Eric Holder, did not bring charges in the case prior to the deals being cut. At the time, Obama and the Clinton State Department were trying to, quote-unquote, reset relations between the two nuclear rivals. The first deal was wrapped up in October 2010 when the State Department and the Committee on Foreign Investment agreed to sell part of Uranium One, a Toronto-based mining giant with operations in Wyoming, Australia, Canada, Kazakhstan, South Africa, and elsewhere, to Rosatom, which is the Russian nuclear company, giving Russia control over about 20% of the American uranium supply. Her spokesman said that she was not involved. Hillary's spokesman said she was not involved in this. And, of course, the Obama administration said there was nothing wrong with the deal anyway, except, of course, for how there was something wrong with the deal, and the Obama administration knew it. So now here's what we know about the Obama DOJ. We always knew that Eric Holder was corrupt. We always knew the Obama DOJ was corrupt. But now we know that Loretta Lynch at the DOJ had no intention of indicting Hillary Clinton for misuse of classified material. That we know that. Now we know her predecessor, Eric Holder, was basically signing off on deals that were designed to benefit the Clinton Foundation at the same time that the DOJ knew that Russia was attempting to wield influence in a corrupt manner, violating the law in the United States. Pretty amazing stuff, and pretty devastating stuff if you're a Democrat, which is why Democrats today should be thankful that that's not the headline. One of the reasons that's not the headline, of course, is because the media don't want these to be the headlines. They don't want ISIS's defeat in Raqqa to be the headline. They don't want James Comey's memo to be the headline. They don't want the FBI knowing that the Russians were attempting corruption being the headline. They don't want any of this to be the headline. What they want to be the headline is that Trump is a bad guy. And fortunately for them, President Trump has a bad habit of opening his mouth at the wrong time. Right? The news cycle for him is actually pretty good this week. But he made the mistake on Monday of giving a press conference in which, as I talked about yesterday, he has a tendency to go out over his skis, and the President of the United States came out and he said that he likes to call all the soldiers, and then he suggested not only that he liked to call all the soldiers, but that prior presidents like President Obama and President Bush did not like to call all the soldiers. I want to tell you about this controversy and where I think it stands and what actually is going on here, because I think it's overblown, at least based on the evidence we've seen so far.